Hey, everybody, it's Andre Shirdan, and this is part of my series of interviews about the fork in the road that we've all taken at one point. And my guest today is a friend of 30 years plus. We're talking about this offline. Kerry is the managing director for Straine Dental Management and has provided business and management direction for dental practices for more than 3 decades. And I'm going to gush for a minute about you. Don't blush too much, but Kerry's one of those people who, when I get phone calls and they say, "Hey, Andre, can you help me with my practice?" I go, "Tell me what you need," because if you say any of the keywords like structure, if you say processes, Kerry's the guy who I'm going to then say to you, "Here's the guy you need to call." So when we get to the end of this, I want to make sure that, Kerry, I'm going to ask you this. We have all your contact information, which I'm definitely going to put at the bottom, but I want to find a way that everybody can get in touch with you because I love you as my kind of go-to guy for a lot of these processes. So glad to have you with me today.
Andre, it's such a pleasure. And I just appreciate our friendship. It's probably 2.5 decades. And you're a person of integrity and warmth and intelligence. And I just appreciate you and all the times we get to connect. And thank you for having me on this podcast.
I'm glad to have you here. And one other interesting thing, and this is going to be really, really crazy, but the room that I'm in, so I'm in like a part of my house, the room that I'm in used to be the guest room in our house. You are the only person that's ever slept in this room.
Gosh, I remember when your children were so young and we'd be on the East Coast. And yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, you're the only person, because once we had this as a guest room, I took it over as an office. So the bed went out and Kerry was, so just like those plexuses, Washington or Lincoln slept here, this is the Kerry room. So
God bless you. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to hit you with some questions, and I gave you the questions ahead of time, but this is low key free form, and there are 6 questions I wanted to ask everybody, and the first question is, compare yourself today to the person you were when you hit a fork in the road. And one of the things I realized as I created these questions is, it's kind of a trick question because I think we all hit multiple forks. So I figured, I hit you with the question. Think of a fork that you've hit, and tell me about the person before and the person after.
Well, that's interesting. The fork in the road for me was probably at a point in time where the dental industry opened up to me. Prior to that, I was in a family accounting firm. I just wanted to be like my father, Harry. I don't know if you ever met Dad. Harry and my mother, Terry, and my brother, Larry, and my sister, Sherry, and I'm Kerry. My dad was a second generation CPA in Sacramento, and all the boys and my cousin, my brother, we all just went to work for our dads after we got out of college. And so I began that journey in the late 70s, working with my older brother, Larry, and my dad. That was my purpose. And I enjoyed being in the family business, but it wasn't a global purpose for me. It wasn't a global mission and vision. I was just carrying out the family legacy, and it was somebody else's dream. Then, accidentally, as I always say, I'm the accidental dental consultant. One of my clients in Sacramento asked me to help him look at ways to improve his profitability. And since I had prepared his financial statements and tax returns for years, we sat down over lunch one day and we talked about ways to reduce his overhead. And that's the way most people approach it. How can you reduce overhead? And this is back in the late 80s. I prepared the financial statements, we pulled them out, and I said, the first expense category is accounting. You can't cut that one or my brother will have a heart attack. And we can't do that. And we went down through the list of expenses, and there were very few that really could be cut. And I looked at him and I asked him, I said, "Doc, think about how you onboard a patient. How do you prioritize the work you do? How do you onboard a customer?" And he told me, emergencies and soft tissue than hard tissue, and he walked down a simple explanation. I said, "Well, good. How many times a year will the patient come in for an emergency?" And we had that conversation. He said, "Very, very infrequently, because we do comprehensive exams to get them into continuing care." And I said, "What's next?" He goes, "Well, the priority," he goes, we build a hygiene department around their soft tissue. And I get that. I said, "So are all of your patients supposed to be in?" Yeah, they're all supposed to be. And so we just had the conversation. I said, "Well, about how many times a year will the average patient come in to see your hygienist?" And he says, "Well, I bought an older man's practice, so there's a lot of 3 and 4 month and 6 month cycle patients? He said, on average, 3 times a year. I said, interesting. And how many patients do you have? He goes, well, do you mean active? I said, how would I know? And he says, well, I got about 3,000 active. I said, well, the demand must be 3,000 times 3 visits a year, 9,000 appointments, right? He goes, yeah. I said, what's your supply? He said, how do you figure out that? I said, well, how many patients a day would a hygienist see? He said, 8. How many days a week does a full-time hygienist work? He said, 4. I said, well, that's pretty simple, doc. That's 32 appointments a week, 50 weeks a year. I mean, this isn't algebra, not even geometry, just math. That's about 1,600 patients. I said to him, doc, how many hygienists do you have? He said, well, I got 1. I said, well, this doesn't make any sense. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, if the demand's 9,000 appointments and the supply is 1,600, who's seeing the other 7,400 hygiene appointments? I'm over 2,500 people. He put his burger down. He looked at me. He goes, nobody's ever asked me that question. Yeah. I said, if I've got 500 tax clients, I'm going to see them. So he goes, well, you need to help me. And that began the journey. That was a fork only because this is a man that I've known for over 50 years. We played sports together in junior high school. He called me when he graduated from UCLA dental school. We set up his books, and this was just a journey following my dad's footsteps, but it pivoted to consulting. Eventually, there was another fork. I pivoted out of accounting. My dad retired in the late 80s. My brother died in 1989, June 27th. I'll never forget the moment I found that out. It's just one of those memory points. And I didn't know where I was going because I was going with someone else. And as I look back on that moment, what I tell every professional is find out what your passion is. There's always a way to make money, but there's not a way to experience the fulfillment of having your mission and vision come together in your life so you feel that you had fun, fulfillment, and too, responsibly, financial reward. The forks along the way have migrated onto other paths, new forks, not as big a fork. That was a big one because I sold the accounting firm back in the early 90s. I ended up working with, as you know, clients in the Sacramento market, then the California market, then Patterson. And we started working with them nationally in 95, and then the Henry Schein relationship in 2001. And, it's just been an amazing journey. The accounting is a great language to know because numbers don't lie, people do, right? And so, it's a series of journeys. And again, as I look back, I am so grateful to have had that opportunity with that doctor in that moment. Otherwise, Andre, I would never have met you and I wouldn't be here.
That's right. And hey, you know what? You're going to love this. I would have never gotten this. You know what that is? That's my.
It's like a business card.
That's my Straine business card when we worked together. So that's a souvenir from a great time in my life. So
I look back and having worked with a lot of consultants, and there's nobody that has more integrity and character and professionalism than you. Nobody.
I appreciate it.
And then there's only one other gentleman that comes close, and he's amazing too. But I got to thank you for all the work you've done. We've had a great run with people. But, when you're out there in the world of consulting, I appreciate you reaching across the lines back to us. And I appreciate you being available for us to reach out to you. You're an amazing friend.
Always have. So let's talk about some of these other questions. So what is the book that everyone should be reading and should be reading over and over and over again?
Well, I could say the Bible. That would be a good book.
That's a good one.
Okay. And there's lessons there, even if they're not spiritual. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I've been thinking about this. There's probably 3 big ones.
Good.
The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And you knew I'd say that.
Because it's over here on my shelf.
and creating basically understanding the role of the small business owner. Before I read that book, I always thought my successful small business clients in my accounting days were one of 2 things. They were a good technician or they were a heck of a salesperson. Yeah. You could either sell carpet or you could put carpet and install carpet. You were good at one or the other, and typically running the business you were not good at. Yeah. They take you through the business development cycle in that book of innovation leads to orchestration, leads to quantification. And that ties into the 3 hats the small business owner has to wear. The entrepreneur, which is going to take about 10% of your time. the manager, what's going to take about 20% of your week, and then the technician, which is about 70% of your week. So if you're seeing patients 28 hours a week, good, you're working towards at 70% of 40 hours. And if you're not putting the time into thinking about your vision and your purpose and your mission, that's the entrepreneurial side, and making sure your strategies that support the goals make sense clinically, administratively, and economically, then you can't take that thought and put it into a management system that makes it understandable to your teammates through training and then repetition through your huddles and your team meetings and your monthly strategy meetings to compare the results in the future and the past to the plan. So that book takes you there. The other books, Develop the Leader Within by John Maxwell, I think that's just as important as the White Album by the Beatles, right? I mean, it's just, it's Sergeant Pepper. It's just the way it is. The 5 steps on the leadership ladder. As you know, Andre, I'm a very extroverted, task-driven person. And when you think about John Maxwell's book on the leadership ladder, we all have steps on the ladder to grow our influence, from position to permission to production to people development, and then personhood. In the old days, that was the call. I thought because I entered a position, I could go right to production, but I missed permission. And so that ties us back to the 3rd book. And there's several that are good, but Dan Goleman, Emotional Intelligence, Self-Awareness, Self-Management, realizing that how you're responding to a situation may cause a disconnect within the room. And you really need to have that dialogue with yourself. So, that was a big, important first book, Emotional Intelligence. And then his next book, Social Intelligence, which was looking at the situation that's unfolding in front of you and stepping into that conversation without making a ripple. So I think those are the 3 big books.
It's good.
And they're outside of dentistry, but they certainly apply to dentistry and in every aspect of your life.
Yeah. And one of the things I always tell everybody that I ever come into contact with is some of the best books about dentistry have absolutely nothing to do with dentistry. That's always the way. Yeah,
We're
exactly. So here's my next question for you.
Yeah.
Give me 1 or 2 or whatever of your favorite quotes and what I mean to you.
Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Yeah. Begin with the end in mind. Those probably the big important ones, because they talk about what's in your heart. Do unto others. Think about them first. You can help people get everything. You can get everything you want if you make sure everybody gets what they want. What was that, Brian Tracy?
Yeah.
My quote: an active patient's an appointed patient. There's another one: for every 1,200 patients, for every 600 patients, you need a full-time hygienist.
Yeah.
Here's another quote: you don't have a right to take on a new patient until you've learned to meet the needs of your existing patients.
I love that.
Right. I mean, it's just the bottom line. I can't tell you. We've conducted, I would say, as a group within my firm, over 25, 30,000 practice analysis over the last 30 years. We look at data. Somebody called me the other day. 2 things, Andre. This one was not so flattering. I'm a pioneer in dentistry. Gosh, we're not that old, are we?
No.
And the other one was a data whisperer, because I see things that most people don't see, because I index data points to the goal, the vision, your personal life, your business life, and every aspect of what needs to be done to accomplish it.
Yeah.
So, all those things matter. But the concept of one of my first seminars, the slogans were, are your internal controls out of control? That was a slogan. You don't have a right to take on a new patient till you've met the needs of your existing ones. That's a slogan. But in helping others, doing other, putting other people's needs first, lead with your heart, not with your head. All those are quotes that talk about your intent, and think about them. And there's your slogans for your life. Practice is made perfect. But being made perfect was one of our slogans, is not about a Straine model. 30 years ago, there were some great pioneers before us in dentistry. And everybody would say, with this one consulting firm, let's say the name of this consulting firm was X. I want an X practice.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I really don't want an X practice for you. I want you to have your practice designed and developed by Straine, because you can't borrow someone else's vision. And that ties back to Maxwell again.
Yep. I love it. So here's the next one. These 2 are pretty rapid fire, very easy. So what's the high-tech thing has a battery, has a plug that you can't live without?
Well, certainly my phone, because it's got everything on it. I mean, back in the accounting days with my brother, we had an accounting service bureau, and we had HP mini computers, and they would eat up a room, and we'd need air conditioning units, and they couldn't do 1/100th of what my phone does now, and they were HP mini computers.
Yeah.
High tech. I live on Zoom meetings. We use, Microsoft Teams. I don't really even use phone call all day long since, during COVID and post COVID, I'm on team meetings. I've probably already been on 4 or 5 this morning, and I have many to go for the rest of the day. So I just can't live with that and the way that we communicate. High tech. I love Salesforce as a software tool for our contact management software for our team. I'll tell you another one I can't live without: Dental Intel.
Yeah.
I love our relationship with Dental Intel over the years, and we've integrated all of their reports and the ones we've even asked them to create for us into our management system of policies. So those are the things that I can't live without. But again, back to the phone, I can go from Dental Intel to Amazon to United Airlines to the Daily Mail, and just kind of just relax. So it's just amazing how important that is to me. I'm not so sure what the other question was, though.
So I didn't ask you yet, but the second question is, what is the low tech thing that you can't live without? So something that has no plug, no battery.
Well, no battery. I'd say a set of golf clubs.
I thought you were going to say that.
When I want to, I live in the Monterey Peninsula as well as in Sacramento, and I spend a lot of time down here in the Pebble Beach area. And we just had clients come in last week for 2 days of planning. But there's nothing like getting out on the golf course, and none of us are accomplished golfers anymore. But we have fun, and we hit a good shot, and we think we are.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we're in an environment that lets us to unplug from the world of high tech as we know it, or low tech, and just enjoy looking at chipmunks running through the trees, deer over in the pasture, even so much as the dew on the green, and the experience of your fellow man walking and talking and just socializing. And I really enjoy that environment. I don't like to golf without a friend with me.
Yeah.
Because I really view it as a special time. And as I've gotten older, especially, during the COVID shutdown, it was a lot more 9-hole matches because we really don't have time for 18-hole.
Right.
But it gives me a chance to create an arena. And Olivia will go out and just walk with me because she doesn't play golf very, very often. But I really enjoy her company, and it just creates an arena for us to relax.
Well, that's it. And it's funny because, we kind of know each other, and this is fun because a lot of the questions I go, I think he's going to say that. So that's good. So here's the last of the questions, which is, what advice would Kerry today give the Kerry of the accounting days?
The advice I'd give Kerry of the accounting days is don't borrow somebody else's dream. And that goes all the way back to choosing your college major and where you went to school. I was blessed to have the most amazing parents in the world. My mom and dad loved all 3 of their children so much, and each other.
Yeah.
And, dad was my Sunday school teacher, my den mother, my little league coach, my scoutmaster, my air explorer leader. I got my pilot's license because of my dad. And I got my desire to create a life model a lot like mom and dad. I used to say, I just want to move in with you. And the short-sightedness of that was not maybe, and it was my initiative. They were just there to support me. And it was maybe my lack of confidence as a child or a teenager, thinking I could break free from that. And I would say to that person, think about your dreams, write them down, think about who you want to be, where you want to go, and go pursue that. Life isn't that short at that age, but where you end up, life becomes shorter.
Yeah. And this is why I love doing this, because I'm getting a chance to talk to a lot of my friends in the dental world and outside the dental world about these questions. So here's one that I didn't prepare you for, but I'm going to ask you this question, and it's sort of a curveball, but it's a fun one. Kerry is who he is today because of 2 things: hard work or luck.
It's hard work. You have to love what you do. And I meet a lot of people that, a lot of people that have got good jobs. They're making 70, $80,000 a year, 150, 200. They're in a position where they've got a good job and they end up protecting that position.
Yeah.
But they're really not, other than making a living, they're not making a retirement, nor are they making a difference, because it's more about them.
Yeah.
And they're protecting their environment. When you love your job more than you love your mission and vision and people, you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
Because the enterprise has a path it needs to be on that maybe you're protecting in your own silo. So I would say to me, step back and think about it, who you want to be, what you want to do, and then go for it, pursue it. I talk to my kids. I'm so proud of my children. I have 4 and they're all in their 30s. This year, the oldest one becomes 40, and they all have great education. They're amazing. They're working, they're contributing, and they're doing what they like. And that's what I want. It's not, I'm their father, and I just want them to be the greatest they can be, as we love those children unconditionally. And I hope they're on that path, and I'm there to support them along the way. And I would say to the Kerry 18, 20, see, by the time I got to Larry passing away when I was 33, I was still on that path.
Yeah.
And when Larry wasn't around to guide me anymore, my older brother, he was 39 when he passed away, and he left behind his widow and 2 amazing daughters who I'm very close to. They're in Missouri. His wife passed away 10 years later. Those girls have had an amazing upbringing of adversity, but they've been loved by their family to keep them on a great path, because they're amazing. But I always had Larry to be my safety net. And the safety net in life certainly are your values that you have from your upbringing. And that should catapult you to really think clearly of who you want to be and what you want to be known for, and then commit to that. But it's not going to be luck.
Yeah.
The good Lord's going to provide you with opportunities, just like I had that lunch that day with that client, just like when I met the Patterson manager in Sacramento. You probably remember Tom Kramer.
I do.
Jack Shea, the legendary manager in San Francisco, who developed the Golden Touch program before it became Patterson Plus. Bill Graham, he's gone now. Sean Sullivan, all these great friends of mine that are no longer in management positions. But then Pete Frechette. Those are moments, they're breakthrough or breakdown moments. And if you've lived your life properly, you're committed to serving properly. When somebody reaches out for your hand at that pivot point and says, come with me, you got to be prepared to step up. And that means everything you've done to date can't have any flaws in the armor. Yep. It's got to be ready to go to that next step. And then have met the VP of marketing at Patterson. And then he went to Shine and met John Chatham and worked with that group over there. I'm just blessed to have experienced a great career that I would have never had in my accounting world. But there was a time and a place for that opportunity to present itself. And that's why I believe the good Lord's got a plan for everybody.
And you took the right fork.
Yeah. We're here to help that. And there's even forks within Straine at this time. Us as Straine Consulting. Over 20 years ago, we began advising on large DSOs, or small DSOs at the time, which are now the biggest. And over time, we currently have many, many different private equity firms we're in contact with, working with. They call us their secret weapon, because they've got to see portfolios continue to perform for the investors they put in, whether they're a lender or an equity firm investor. And my accounting world, my experience makes it very easy for me to step in with investment bankers, CPAs, talk about quality of earnings report, audited financial statements, all those things, all the way down to projections and personnel within the practice and patient base, so that it all comes together. And so we even put together a group of 40 Straine clients that are just going through the final steps of a 5-year plan to monetize the performance of their practice in ways that the best DSOs are doing today. So, it's exciting future ahead. I'm 65. Yeah. I think I'm 25. And I'm committed to doing this until I see another fork, but I don't see it soon, because I'm having a great time.
Well, that's one of the things I love about you. And I follow you closely, to see the where you're going, because I love seeing where you're going, and I love seeing what you do. So those folks who haven't met you yet, how can they get in touch? How can they find out what you're doing? Where are you going next? You got any secrets you want to tell me? Where are you going next? What's going on?
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit under the radar. A lot of people in the industry know that I've been creating Strain Dental Management as a DSO, but it hasn't acquired any practices yet. But that changes for on behalf of the plan for our clients. That changes within about 3 weeks. So there'll be some big announcements coming up here, end of January, first part of February. Building a DSO is different than building a group practice. Sure. And a group practice is just some owner who's typically very entrepreneurial or a monomaniac on a mission, we used to say. Somebody that's got 2, 3, 4, 5 practices, maybe a couple of partners, a super administrator that will die for them, et cetera. But building out that management platform that can really be scaled is a whole different model. That's where we're going to go in addition to our consulting firm. So we really have moved Strain into 3 different channels. One is obviously the DSO. And the reason why I'm really passionate about that is because I want to help dentists get what they deserve in a transition. We're operators. We're not consolidators. So in our DSO, we're here to build the best DSO on the planet. That'll be legendary in the history books. And I don't know of any other management team that's got the experience of advising over 6,000 dental consulting clients, done over 25,000 analysis, with the intent to help them optimize their performance according to their clinical philosophy. And I'd love to meet somebody if they've got it, but I've yet to see it. I want to do that. And then to bring the doctors in so they're not disenfranchised and having somebody make all the equity on their back that they didn't know how to make because they didn't know how to monetize the value of their practice, looking at pro forma EBITDA. We're going to create a pathway that's unparalleled. So anybody looking to sell in the next 5 years, see me now. We have a lot of practices, 1, 2, 3 locations, as much as 20 that we're in discussion with about how to join with us. And the offers we're going to be making, I believe, are unparalleled. That's number one. Number 2 is obviously consulting. I have the best team of consultants and coaches I know and administrative support. We still are I believe, one of the highest value propositions of the most unique customization strategies for dentists to consider based on their philosophies, with the highest amount of touches for the most affordable consulting fee with the least amount of contractual invasiveness. That's a mouthful, but it's true. And if somebody wants to talk about where they are and where they want to go, I want to help them. And last, we work, as I said, very closely with Dental Intel. My team are masters. If there was a PhD in Dental Intel, my team has them. We love them. We love their leadership team. I'm grateful for what Weston put together all these years, and the new management team is keying forward. We love all of that team and what they do. We depend on them. They're very responsive to all of our needs. The system works, and the truth is told. So those are the big things we're working with. I always say, my dad always say, Kerry, where there's a will, there's a way. And I said, yeah, Dad. He goes, well, here's the truth. There's a way. The question is there a will? And when we think about way, it's an acronym for us. What do you want? That's the W. Let's have a real clear, accurate understanding of what you have. And when I think about what you have, it's what are you experiencing? I mean, if you're 50 and you don't have $2 or $3 million saved in retirement, you're behind. Yeah. Because when we all do retire, we got to know our number. How much do I need to have in savings to live the life I want for the remainder of my life, knowing that there's not going to be much ROI on that investment. So the practice has got to help you make that now. And the Y stands for you. It's simple. You got to love your mission, love your vision, love the people on the journey with you, and love yourself and your patients so much so that you don't look at a clock. You've got to balance your quality of life with your family time. But the person who says, I just don't want to put that much time into my business model, I want to come and go, they're going to earn a living, but they're not going to earn a reputation. And they're certainly not going to earn any wealth.
Amen.
Those are
Amen.
my thoughts about that, Andre.
Well, I'm so glad that we got a chance to catch up. The last time I talked to you, I had butt dialed you when I was in Sacramento. So
I remember that.
Yeah, I know. So I got to catch up with you the next time I'm on the other coast. So
and same with me.
Yeah, I'm so glad we had the time to do this. And again, I'm going to put the information down here. What you got to.
What you're going to put the best way you said, how can somebody get a hold of me? Just call me on my mobile.
I was going to say you're as accessible as I am. So
that's the key to success.
Yep.
Is the do you see that ghost in the background?
I saw the ghost in the
Yeah. 916-765-7200. It's on my website. Email me at kerry@straine.com. don't wait. If you're at any moment thinking about where could I be different than where I am, seek us out. We'll spend an hour or two with anybody. We'll look at your data. We'll help you look at your software. We'll help you discuss your goals. And that's what we want to do. If it leads to consulting or analytics or maybe even a sale, those are options to consider as they relate to your life, where you are today, what you want, and what you've got.
Yep. And this is the time to take the right fork in the road. And like I said, I'll make sure all that information's in the notes below. And Kerry, we'll talk soon. Give Liv a hug for me, and I will talk to you soon.
Andre, thank you. All the best to you and your family, and all the best to the listeners. You have a great day.
Thanks, sir.